What is up, YouTube? It has been a while. I have not been really posting videos or even working on projects lately, so it's nice to get back and hopefully do what I can. And the reason for that is because we recently moved up to Boise, Idaho. We love it up here. This house we're renting is kind of small for us. I don't have the room to really get a lot of these big projects done, especially with it being cold and my wife parking in the garage. So hopefully we will be buying our own house here in the near future, and that will have a 3-car garage. We're actually looking at a 4-car garage option, so fingers crossed the price comes down on that a little bit because the market is pretty crazy right now. We're just trying to be patient and use our best judgment with buying a new house. So that being said, if you do follow my Instagram, you might have seen a picture of an LED light bar kind of pod for the roof of the Nissan Frontier. It is loosely inspired by the Titan Warrior concept that came out a while ago. Of course, I didn't want to actually create an LED bar itself, so I decided to use something off the shelf. So I opted for these aux beam, I don't know the part number, but I chose it for basically its shallow height, and the width kind of made sense to sit inside the footprint of the actual roof rack base to build that pod on, because I really wanted to keep it encapsulated up there and mount on top of that instead of actually just like drilling through the roof elsewhere. I'm also working on a carbon fiber intake tube. It's actually a project I've started and stopped once before. Hopefully this time it sees the light of day, but there is no rhyme or reason for a carbon fiber intake tube for the Nissan Frontier. It's totally unnecessary, but it's really just an exercise to push material boundaries and test properties and experiment a little bit, see if I can actually pull it off with 3D printed molds. That's the plan right now. The molds are already printed. It's actually 6 pieces, 3 for each half, so 3 for the top, 3 for the bottom, just because they're pretty large. And they're all printed out of ABS, my FlashForge Guider 2S printer. They came out great. I actually used some wooden dowel rods to kind of align everything, keep everything together. They are going to get gel coated, sealed up and whatnot, ready for the carbon fiber. More to come on that in the future. If you want to see that kind of content, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Being from Vegas, it is rather cold out here all of a sudden. I think it was 22 degrees this morning. I'm from Vegas. That's cold for me. I think that's cold for a lot of people, but you know, it's hard to kind of get used to. Obviously it means I'm spending less time outside, more time inside, and you know what, I have a 3D scanner that I've really been not utilizing as much as I should be, so I have just a ton of different random car parts that have been accumulating over the years, and I've started 3D scanning them. And this is to build basically an asset digital library of all these different components to check fitment, clearances, proof of concept or whatever in a digital space before I have to actually go wrench on a car and see if they work out there. And it also makes part creation a lot easier. I can adapt a caliper bracket a whole lot easier on the computer, assuming I have a good high quality scan of the brake calipers and the knuckles or hubs or anything like that. So that being said, currently I'm using an Einscan SP structured light scanner. It works great for limited parts. It has a turntable for scanning, and if it fits within that scan envelope, it works great, assuming it has a lot of features to kind of track that data. But if the item is too large or just outside that depth of field, you absolutely get like no scan data from it. So it's just really not easy to use for something like large suspension components. I tried 3D scanning my engine bay for that carbon fiber intake tube project, and while it did eventually work, it took me about 3 hours to get the data I have, and you know, it's just very, very difficult to use for that. So I will be upgrading 3D scanners in the near future. Einscan recently released their Einstar that I think is really appealing for the average consumer, but I'm not quite sure it's going to have the detail and resolution that I'm going to be needing for future projects. I have a few very lofty projects in my head that I plan on doing in the future, and I don't really want to have to keep upgrading 3D scanner. So I'm probably going to be looking at something like the Einscan HX or Peel 3, and I will probably be buying the upgraded reverse engineering bundles that come with either one of those. With the Einscan, I know it comes with a GeoMagic, which is super powerful for kind of reverse engineering, breaking down, deconstructing parts. And that is really important for me to kind of create these digital assets that I can build an entire car with, because I have to have full working geometry to pull off my big project, which is going to be a full tube chassis car. I want to utilize all the 240SX components. That includes the subframe, the suspension linkages, the arms, the coilovers, The knuckles, I'll probably upgrade the brakes and stuff like that. And obviously I'm going to be using aftermarket arms, but I really want to use the 240SX geometry and keep it as Nissan as possible. Instead of just leaving a full EXO car, I want the option to add a modular, removable fiberglass carbon fiber body that looks like a different car. So that's kind of the plan to the project, so stay tuned for that. It's a ways out. Like I said, I need some a little bit more shop space before I can undertake a project like that. I'm gonna have to figure out where I'm gonna get funding for that because I don't really have a budget for that project yet, but you know, digitally I can start constructing that for significantly less. So anyways, that is gonna be a wrap for today. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit like, subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you on the next one.